It was a Sunday night, the kind where the air feels heavy with routine. We were sitting in the living room, me on the recliner, her curled up on the couch with her laptop glowing in the dim light. The sound of the dishwasher hummed in the background, and I thought everything was normal, quiet, maybe, but normal. Then, out of nowhere, she said it. You know, sometimes I feel like you're just my roommate. I looked up, thinking I misheard. What do you mean? She didn't even glance at me. Her eyes stayed locked on her laptop screen. I mean, we share bills, we live in the same house, but it doesn't feel like a marriage anymore. It feels like, I don't know, like we're just coexisting. She said it with the kind of casualness people use when they're talking about the weather. No weight in her tone. No apology. Just a statement. But those words hit me harder than any argument ever could. Because fights you can recover from. Anger, you can cool down. But indifference? Being seen as nothing more than a piece of furniture in your own home? That's a death sentence for love. I wanted to argue. To remind her of the years I'd given, the nights I stayed up with her when she was sick, the sacrifices I made so she could chase her career. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at the TV I wasn't watching, letting her words settle in my chest like stones. That night in bed, I couldn't sleep. She lay beside me scrolling her phone, the glow lighting up her face. I turned toward her, whispered, "Do you really feel that way? Like I'm just a roommate." She sighed, locked her screen, and said, "I don't know, maybe. I don't feel the same anymore. It's like something's missing." Then she rolled over, back to me, and within minutes her breathing slowed into sleep. Meanwhile, I stared at the ceiling, wide awake, with those words replaying over and over. Roommate. Not husband. Not partner. Not the man she once swore she couldn't live without. Just a roommate. And that's when something inside me shifted. Because if that's how she saw me, if she truly believed I was nothing more than a warm body paying half the mortgage, then maybe it was time to show her exactly what life without me looked like. Not with anger. Not with shouting. But with silence. With planning. With patience. Because a roommate can leave. And when I did, she'd finally understand the difference between a man who shows up every day for his wife and an empty house she thought she wanted. The next few weeks, her words haunted me. Not in the loud, dramatic way people imagine heartbreak feels. No, it was quieter than that. Like a dull hum in the background of every day. I'd wake up, make coffee, pack my things for work, and I'd hear it in my head, roommate. I'd come home after a long shift, see her on the couch with her headphones in, barely acknowledging me, and I'd hear it again, roommate. It wasn't just that she said it. It was how easily she said it. How little thought it seemed to take. And so, instead of confronting her, instead of asking her to explain, I started pulling back. At first, she didn't notice. Or maybe she did and thought nothing of it. I stopped asking about her day. Stopped reaching for her hand when we walked to the car. Stopped initiating little things like cooking her favorite meal on Fridays or leaving notes in her bag like I used to. Instead, I poured that energy into myself. I went back to the gym after work, dug my old guitar out of the attic and started playing again. On weekends, instead of waiting for her to decide if she wanted to do something together, I made plans with friends. Fishing, poker nights, even just long drives with no destination. And the strangest thing happened. The more I pulled back, the more restless she seemed. One night, I came home late. Didn't text, didn't call. Just walked in around 10 p.m. She was sitting at the table, glass of wine in hand, staring at the door like she'd been waiting. "You're late," she said. "Yeah," I replied, setting my keys down. "Where were you?" I shrugged. Out. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't push. She just muttered, "You could have told me." I almost laughed at the irony. For months, she'd barely cared if I was in the room. And now, suddenly, my absence mattered. It kept happening. The more I focused on my own life, the more she seemed unsettled. She started asking little questions. "Who are you with? Why didn't you answer your phone? Are you going out again tonight?" Sometimes she even tried to bridge the gap. She'd cook dinner, wear perfume, suggest a movie. But I didn't take the bait. I ate, thanked her politely, and then went to the garage or the den. It wasn't about being cruel. It was about showing her, slowly, carefully, what life looked like when I stopped playing the part of a man desperate to be more than just a roommate. But here's the thing, when you stop chasing, when you stop begging for affection, it rattles people, especially those who are used to having your attention without earning it. And by January, I could see it in her eyes. She was nervous because she thought I'd always be there, always waiting, always ready to fight for scraps of her love. But I wasn't that man anymore. No, now I was a man with a plan. And when the time came, I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. I was going to make sure she understood exactly what she lost. By February, the house no longer felt like a home, it felt like a waiting room. She was waiting for me to snap back into the man who begged for her attention. And I was waiting for the right moment to leave. Our conversations had become short, almost transactional. She'd ask what bills I'd paid, I'd mention what groceries I bought, and that was it. No warmth, no laughter, no intimacy. But beneath that silence, I noticed something shifting in her. She had started trying. It was subtle at first. She'd put her phone down when I walked into the room. She'd pour me a glass of wine even if I didn't ask. She even bought me a new set of headphones just because. To someone else, it might have looked like love returning. But I knew better. This wasn't affection. It was fear. She could feel it, the distance growing, the walls rising. She could feel the gravity between us reversing. For the first time in years, she was the one orbiting me, not the other way around. And it rattled her. One Friday night, she came into the garage while I was sanding a table I'd been building. She leaned against the door frame, arms crossed, and said, "You've been spending a lot of time out here." "Yeah," I said without looking up. "More time than with me." I set the sander down, wiped the sawdust off my hands, and finally met her eyes. "You told me I was just a roommate, so I figured I'd act like one." Her face froze. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she turned and walked away, shutting the door harder than she needed to. That night, she went to bed early. I stayed in the garage until the small hours of the morning, not because the table needed that much work, but because the silence out there was easier to bear than the silence next to her. The truth is, I had already started preparing. I'd opened a separate account, transferring money little by little. I'd found a one-bedroom apartment downtown, nothing fancy, but mine. The deposit was already paid. And every day, as I packed small pieces of my life into boxes she wouldn't notice missing, old clothes, tools, my favorite books, I felt lighter. The only thing left was timing. Because I didn't just want to leave. I wanted to leave at the moment when she finally realized what she had thrown away. Her attempts grew more desperate. She suggested a trip, just the two of us. She started cooking my favorite meals. One night, she even climbed into bed wearing the same perfume she wore on our wedding night. But by then, it was too late. I wasn't hers anymore. She could sense it, too. I could see it in her eyes when she'd look at me across the table, like she was staring at a man already halfway gone. And she was right, because the only thing keeping me in that house was a plan I hadn't revealed yet. And when I did, she wouldn't just lose her roommate. She'd lose the man she thought would never leave. The night it all came crashing down didn't look dramatic at first. It was a Wednesday. Ordinary, quiet. She said she was going out for drinks with coworkers, something she'd been doing more often lately. Normally, I wouldn't have cared. By then, I was already gone in my head. But that night, something told me to follow. I waited 15 minutes after she left, then got in my truck and drove a few streets behind. She headed across town, not toward the bar district, but toward a hotel just off the interstate. I parked far enough away to watch. And sure enough, I saw him. A man I didn't recognize. Tall, sharp suit, confident. He leaned against his car until she walked up. Then she smiled, God, the kind of smile she hadn't given me in years, and she kissed him like she'd been starving. Not a peck. Not a slip-up. A kiss with history. A kiss with weight. I sat there in the dark, staring through the windshield, and I didn't rage. I didn't pound the steering wheel. I didn't storm in. Because this wasn't shock. This was confirmation. All those late nights. All those turned cheeks in bed. All those words about me being just a roommate. Now I knew what she really meant. I wasn't her partner anymore because she'd already replaced me. I didn't confront her, didn't cause a scene. I just drove home. Calm, steady, precise. That night, I finished what I had been planning for weeks. I packed the last of my things, loaded the boxes into my truck, and left only what didn't matter anymore. On the kitchen counter, I left an envelope. Inside were two things. One, divorce papers already filed with my signature. Two, a note that read, roommates split bills. Husbands give their hearts. You lost both tonight. By the time she stumbled in after midnight, I was already gone. The closet was half empty. My tools were gone from the garage. The silence in the house wasn't the quiet she once said she preferred. It was the silence of a man who would never walk through that door again. I imagined she stood in the kitchen, holding that envelope, realizing too late that she had played her hand-won betrayal too many. But I wasn't there to see it, because the man she called a roommate had disappeared. And for the first time in years, she would feel the weight of my absence. Not just for a night, not just for a week, forever.